Hey everyone, it's your boy HMK once again. Tears of the Kingdom is still taking the world by storm, and a lot of people, myself included, was heavily anticipating downloadable content DLC, especially considering that we got DLC for Breath of the Wild, and if you want to count it, Age of Calamity. But when it comes to an interview from Mr. Aonuma and Mr. Fujibayashi from the latest issue of Famitsu, a lot of people are getting the idea that we should pack up any hopes for DLC for Tears of the Kingdom. Well, I'm here to say, we shouldn't panic so much right away. So to give you a bit of clarification when it comes to this interview from Mr. Aonuma and Mr. Fujibayashi in the latest Famitsu, it's still being translated to its entirety because it was quite a big interview, and this Famitsu actually has a lot of cool stuff outside of Zelda, including that of Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. But when it comes to the specific excerpt at the end of the interview when talking about Tears of the Kingdom DLC or the next Zelda, multiple translations have come to this consensus, where Aonuma states that there are no plans at this time to release additional content or DLC for Tears of the Kingdom. Note how he says there's no plans at the time. Going along with the statement, he also states that the reason is because they feel like they've done everything they can to create a fun world and a complete experience in the base game. He also goes on and reiterates the reason why they made Tears of the Kingdom in the first place. The reason is because they decided to make a sequel to Breath of the Wild because they thought there was value in experiencing a new game in the same Hyrule as before, but says something very interesting at the end, in which Aonuma states, "If a new reason arises, we might return to that same world again, whether it's a sequel or a new work." And he thinks it's going to be a completely new game, because there is a bit of misinformation being spread around from this issue of Famitsu. In this interview, Aonuma and Fujibayashi state that they don't know what their next project is. A lot of people are believing that they already moved on to the next Zelda title, which could be true considering that this is a lot of PR talk, but if we're taking their words at face value, it is what it is. So yo, Breath of the Wild round 3, baby. I'm not counting Age of Calamity because that is not fully the same world. So going back on the notion of no DLC from Tears of the Kingdom, once again, I feel that this is PR talk, and that there are a ton of developers and a ton of companies that always say the same spiel in which they say, oh, there's no plans for this at the time, there's no plans for DLC at the time, there's no plans for a new Nintendo 3DS, only to announce some down the line. But personally, I feel it's a combination of a couple of things, where I do believe that Aonuma is stating that there are no plans for DLC at the time, but I also believe that the notion will change down the line. There's too much potential within that of Tears of the Kingdom for them not to do DLC. And at the same time, I feel that considering that how big Tears of the Kingdom is already, especially when you compare it to that of Breath of the Wild, I feel like waiting a bit longer so that as many people can play and beat the game and experience a good amount of content that's already within the game is a good idea before they could start development and announce a DLC for this game. And there is a bunch of ideas that the Zelda team could tackle. You know, Master Mode, giving more clarification to the Zonai, exploring the backstory of Ganondorf, revealing more about the dragons, and possibly doing something similar to that of Trial of the Sword, in the sense that there's going to be a trial that allows us to fully awaken the Master Sword just like we did in Breath of the Wild. I really kind of need that in Tears of the Kingdom. And with the idea of Master Mode, if we have a further tier of enemies just like we did in Breath of the Wild, like a gold tier, that will give us new horns from each of the monsters in order to fuse with our weapons. And of course, new items, new weapons, new clothing, and possibly that of an equivalent for the ancient gear for our horse, and maybe a Master Cycle 0 type thing for the air in Tears of the Kingdom. But considering that the game's identity has a lot to do with building, probably not those two last things. All in all, we've been through the song and dance before, and I feel that we are going to get DLC for Tears of the Kingdom, but it's going to be later rather than sooner. So when it comes to the supposed Nintendo Direct that's happening really soon, I don't think we're going to get an announcement here, considering that this Famitsu is just coming out. But maybe at the Game Awards or something beyond that. And although Tears of the Kingdom is gigantic, I want DLC for this game, and I hope I'm not disappointed in that front. But let me know what you guys think about this news in the comment section below. And remember, I have a gigantic Tears of the Kingdom video lined up for you guys really soon, over 35 minutes long. If DLC does happen, what would you like to see in the game? Alright guys, until the next video, this has been your boy HMK, and I'll check you guys later.